From Zakham to Shifa, Prayers in the Dark. Assalamu alaikum, beautiful souls, and welcome back to From Zakham to Shifa, our sacred space where wounds transform into wisdom, where silence becomes prayer, and where the darkest nights of the soul become the birthplace of the most authentic faith. I am your sister on this journey of healing, and today I want to speak to those of you who have ever knelt in prayer and felt like your words were hitting the ceiling. Those who have opened the Quran and found the verses that once moved you to tears now feel like foreign language. Those who have wondered if Allah has forgotten you, or worst, if you have forgotten how to find Him. This is an episode of spiritual dryness, about those seasons when faith feels like a desert and where every prayer feels like you're speaking into an empty room. Prayers in the dark, not the literal darkness of Fajr or Tahajjud, but the spiritual darkness when the light of certainty dims and you are left fumbling for connection with the divine you once felt so close to. When the well runs dry. A few months ago, I received a message that pained my heart. Sarah, a sister who had been practicing Islam beautifully for years, wrote, "I feel like I'm going through the motions. When I pray, it feels mechanical. When I read Quran, the words don't penetrate my heart like they used to. I am scared that Allah has given up on me, or that I'm losing my faith. I don't know how to find my way back." Sarah's words echoed something I have experienced myself, something I have heard whispered in the corners of Islamic centers, something that haunts the private messages of believers worldwide. What do you do when your spiritual well runs dry? We live in a culture that expects faith to be constant, emotions to be consistent, spiritual highs to be permanent. But what if I told you that this spiritual dryness is not a sign of weakness? It is a sign of human being. Even the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, experienced periods when revelation paused. The companions noticed his distress during these intervals. If the most beloved to Allah experienced spiritual seasons, why do we expect ourselves to live in perpetual spiritual spring? The mystics have a term for this: the dark night of the soul. It is not abandonment by God. It is an invitation to a deeper, more mature relationship with the divine. The questions that terrify us. I will share something vulnerable with you. There was a period in my life when I stood for prayers and felt nothing. The Arabic words that once filled me with peace felt foreign on my tongue. The verses that once brought tears to my eyes seemed like ancient poetry with no personal relevance. And the questions came like waves in a storm. Has Allah really existed forever and will continue to exist forever? Am I going through cultural motions when I pray? Have I been fooling myself all these years? Is this all just psychological comfort I have outgrown? These questions terrified me because I thought having them meant I was losing my faith. But I have learned something beautiful. Questioning is not the opposite of faith. It is faith seeking understanding. It is your soul refusing to accept shallow answers to deep longings. The Quran itself acknowledges human doubt. When Ibrahim a.s. asked Allah to show him how He gives life to the dead, Allah did not condemn him for questioning. He showed him, because authentic faith can handle authentic questions. There's a story about Rumi that moves me deeply. He once said, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment." Sometimes our spiritual dryness comes from trying to understand God with our minds instead of experiencing Him with our hearts. Sometimes we need to get lost to be found. Your questions are not evidence of weak faith. They are evidence of faith that grows too big for its old containers. The mechanics of devotion. Here is something nobody tells you about spiritual dryness. Sometimes the cure is not more intense worship. It is giving yourself permission to be human in your worship. When prayers feel mechanical, maybe that's okay for now. Maybe showing up mechanically is still showing up. Maybe going through the motion is still motion towards the divine. And what if your spiritual dryness is not a barrier to Allah's presence? Rather, it is exactly where He meets you. There is profound worship in continuing to pray even when you don't feel like praying. There is deep faith in reading Quran when the words feel empty. There is beautiful surrender in saying, I don't feel you, but I'm still here. The geography of spiritual seasons. I have learned that faith has seasons just like nature. There are springs of a spiritual awakening when everything feels fresh and possible. There are summers of steady growth and consistent practice. There are autumns when old beliefs fall away to make room for new understanding. And then there are winters, spiritual winters where everything feels dormant, where the landscape of your inner life looks barren, when you wonder if anything will ever grow again. But here's what I know about winters. They are not death. They are preparation. Seeds do their most important work underground in the dark, where no one can see. Roots grow deeper in winter soil. Trees that survive winter storms become stronger. Your spiritual winter is not punishment. It's preparation for a spring you cannot yet imagine. Finding God in the emptiness. So how do you find God when He feels absent? How do you pray in the dark when we can't see our hands in front of our faces? First, we stop blaming ourselves for lack of spiritual light. We start being honest about our spiritual state. We tell Allah exactly how we feel: distant, confused, empty, questioning. He already knows that. I have found that some of my most powerful prayers have been the ones where I said, Allah, I do not feel you as strongly as I did before, but I'm choosing to trust that you feel me. I don't understand what is happening to my faith, but I'm asking you to hold it for me until I am strong enough to hold it again. There's something profoundly Islamic about this approach. The word Islam itself means surrender. Sometimes surrender looks like ecstatic devotion. Sometimes it looks like showing up empty-handed and admitting you don't know how to pray anymore. The Quran says, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. When your own faith feels insufficient, Allah's sufficiency covers the gap. When your prayers feel inadequate, His mercy fills the silence. I have also learned the power of changing my spiritual practices during dry seasons. When formal prayers become empty, I go for zikr walks in nature. If Quran study feels mechanical, I spend time on contemplative listening. If mosque attendance feels performative, I focus on solitary reflection. God is not confined to the methods that worked for you before. He meets you where you are, not where you used to be. The dawn after darkness. Here is what I want you to know if you are in a season of spiritual darkness. This is not your permanent address. Seasons change, wells refill. Hearts that feel stone cold can become tender now. But more than that, you might discover that the faith you rebuild after a period of questioning is stronger, more authentic, more personally yours than the faith you inherited or assumed. The Arabic word for dawn is Fajr, and it is also the name of our morning prayer. There is something beautiful about this connection. Dawn does not come despite the darkness, it comes through it. The darkest hour really is just before dawn. My dear ones, who are praying in the dark, who are seeking God in silence, who are holding on to faith by the thinnest of threads, you are not lost, you are not abandoned. You are not less Muslim because you are struggling to feel Muslim. You are in the sacred space of spiritual transformation. You are exactly where countless believers have been before you, and where they found not just God, but themselves. Before I go, I want you to ask yourself, if I stopped judging my spiritual state by how I feel and started measuring it by how I show up, what would I discover about the strength of my faith? How might Allah be present in my spiritual dryness in ways I do not recognize? This is From Zakham to Shifa. Until we meet again, may you find peace in your questions and light in your darkness. Barakallahu fi, wassalamu alaikum.